time for another Mototec revival. This time it's the OG bike, so in a sense it's a revival, but we're gonna up the ante because we have an ETM kit from Electro Co, and we're gonna up the ante even further because this ETM kit is free. But before we get to the installation and the eventual test ride of this ETM kit, first I feel like we need to recap the saga that is the quest for power in the original Mototec. So a few months ago, I allowed myself to introduce myself to the electric dirt bike community in the form of purchasing this, a Mototec 48 volt Pro. So we unboxed it, got it installed up and running, and enjoyed it in stock form for, at least a few days. But then of course my instincts kicked in and we needed to modify this thing to gain some power out of it, because why not? This wild animal you're seeing in the background in the foreground, by the way, is the shop manager. This is Noodles. She insists on supervising. Anyway, we got that FarDriver installed, plus a couple of other things, got it auto-learned, got it tuned, up and running, and everything was fine, except there was a very rough spot in the RPM, which for whatever reason, I could not get rid of. I couldn't get rid of it with information from the internet. I couldn't get rid of it with experts. I couldn't get rid of it with comments from you on those videos, of which there are a few. So naturally, that conclusion was to just ditch that FarDriver because it's a dud and I've done everything that I can. And it was even easier to justify ditching that FarDriver because at the exact same time, luckily, I found a second Mototec locally on OfferUp that had an Electro Co ETM kit in it. The only problem with that, of course, was that the motor was junk, but thankfully I was able to get another motor from Electro Co, got it shipped out to me, and then plugged everything in, only then to realize that my controller was very much out of date. So the brand new motor and my old controller both had to go to Electro Co, and in the meantime I decided to just take all the stock components from this bike, put it in the old roller to make it a brand new stock bike, and now my original stock bike is now a roller. Does that make sense? But after the holidays, Electro Co retuned everything and brought it back to me, so now I have, I think, a full Electro Co ETM kit. Which finally brings us to today. We have a roller, and it is not going to be a roller by the end of this video. So now let's get to all of the components to show you everything that is involved with the ETM kit. And that ETM kit includes controller, wiring harness, throttle with a 3-position switch, voltmeter, kill switch, and battery leads. Oh yeah, and the motor too, of course. You know, it's funny, when they gave me the motor back, they actually included a piece of the wiring harness that I had already with a note in tape that says, "You must use this, please discard any previous version." So I guess the wires are different? I don't know. So we'll start here with the controller because this is kind of like the main unit. Everything really connects to this. So first we'll start with the connectors. These are really easy because there's two. There's a big one right here and a little guy right here. So it's just as simple as lining things up. Second one is actually that one with the tape that connects to the motor. Then the two big connections on either side here. They're behind some plastic panels. On this side is your battery power, and on this side is your phase wires. Also, you'll note with the wiring harness that we plugged in, there is this one little lead which is red that's sticking out. This actually needs to be included with the battery leads here so that it has power all the time. So we're actually gonna start with this side. We're gonna undo these two screws, and they're labeled. Not only do they have colors here, red and black, but they're also labeled with some words, B+ and B-, meaning B positive and B negative, I assume. Hopefully you watching this are being more positive than you are being negative, but you know, do what you do. And like I mentioned, we're gonna put this little wire here first underneath the red wire so that both red wires are attached to the same post. And on the other side here, we have 3 posts for the phase wires. Now these are the big fat wires that are coming out of the motor. There's a green one, a blue one, and a yellow one. And again, they are color coded here with blue, green, and then yellow. And actually it looks like they Sharpied over the original ones, because if I recall correctly, it was actually green, blue, yellow, but this time for whatever reason, I guess their software required that they switch some of the phase wires. Now that we got that connected, we just move our way up the line with the wiring harness. Now this one, there are 3 connectors right here, and each of them have a different number of wires going to them, so it's pretty easy to see which goes where. For example, this big one, which has 6 wires, a massive 6, comes from the throttle. So in addition to the 3 throttle wires, this one also has some additional wires for different ride modes. As you can see right here, there's a 3-position switch, so you get 3 different levels of intensity. Then the 3-position switch goes to this, which is the voltmeter. Now this one actually only has just 2 wires in it, but I assume they give it a 3-position connector, so that way you don't confuse that with the other one. And finally, the 2-position switch, which actually does have 2 wires. This is the kill switch, so it turns the whole unit on and off. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Can't bench test it without power. So this gets connected, of course, to the battery leads here, and it's pretty easy to see which direction it goes. Make sure red goes to red, black to black, and don't worry, it will spark. All right, so let's get a few things in place. We got the voltmeter in one hand and the kill switch in the other. So once I turn this on, it's gonna give everything power, and you should see that with the voltmeter turning on and showing voltage. So let's see if that's accurate. Looks like we got 52 volts. So now the unit has power, and we're gonna test that by giving it some throttle. And last time I did this, things did not work out very well. So let's see how this goes. Looks like it works. Success. Now it's install time. You think we should do a montage?
Looks like it's time.
Nah, we'll go over the steps with this one. I'm gonna start off with the drivetrain, so that includes putting the motor on and getting the chain together and everything tensioned up. Now that the dirty job is out of the way, we can get back to putting all the electrics together. We're gonna start with securing the battery, then getting a few things connected on the controller and getting that mounted.
This song was a bluff, showing all the boring stuff.
So I am going to deviate from the wiring harness just a little bit. This kill switch, I don't want as much stuff up on the handlebars, and I want a little bit more security, so I'm ditching this and I'm actually going with the stock key. That's going to go to the side here, and that way I can actually take out the key and walk away from it if I choose to. Now that we got the controller secured, we can move up top and get the rest of the things connected, that being the voltmeter, the throttle, and the kill switch. And to tie a bow on it, of course, we gotta connect the battery. Time to see if I did everything right. We got voltage, and I'm just noticing that this is upside down. Fun. But we got everything working.
Well, I think it's safe to say that the speed has been achieved. Oh my God, holy washboard. I don't think I mentioned earlier how this is free, by the way. That kind of assumes that you've seen all the other prior videos, especially the last revival video of the new Mototec. So in short summary, what happened was I found that bike. Oh my God. So in summary, I found that bike online and it was being sold as a roller, not working, and I managed to talk him into 400 bucks. 400 bucks for an entire bike. But it did have a busted motor. And even though I had to pay for a motor, which is $200 from Electro Co, that means I had $600 into it, and the kit itself is about $650 retail from Electro Co. So once I took all the stock parts and put that into the bike, then that bike is basically worth 650 bucks. At least that's what I can reasonably expect for it if I were to sell it myself. So then that means I just got an Electro Co ETM kit for free. Well, I think as you can tell, the power is definitely there now. I do not have to worry about tuning anymore. And as far as power goes, I think the only thing in addition to what I have currently is just a bigger battery, something like a 72 volt, very popular, so that might be on the horizon. But overall, the power is pretty good and manageable. I was a little surprised about that. I was thinking, of course, that because of the frame that this thing is in and the size and the fact that it's for a child, honestly, is that it might be a little bit too much for it, but it holds up pretty well, and I actually like the power delivery. It's not overpowering and it's not intimidating by any means. It's actually pretty nice. Torque is definitely there too, especially in the high power range. That's for sure.
And most importantly, there is no judder at all in any kind of RPM. That's the takeaway here. It's not FarDriver.
Wow, and the third power actually really goes pretty fast. I'm curious to see what my miles per hour is right now. We'll definitely have to see that and probably even test it against the stock one since I got two. So I mentioned a couple of things that could take this bike to the next level, the next step in the modification process. And you know, as much as I want more power out of it with a battery, for some reason, all that I'm coming up with is suspension. And honestly, I'm not sure why.
Gonna go through the steps because we got the time as he works in the garage. Not gonna move this alone, but we'll pace it with the song. This song was a